in the industry, you love me or hate me.
Good to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything we do is organic based.
Organic based, soil based.
That's right.
Okay.
And we don't use synthetics with anything that we eat. Now, contrary to the products that Mr. Ritz is using now.
Which I believe are the Tower Gardens.
That's right.
Right.
And it's specifically hydroponic. So here's my problem.
Yeah.
Number one, you have these young people working in a classroom with no goggles, no glasses, no safety equipment. It's almost like a biology class or a chemistry class.
Yeah.
Number two, in a hydroponic facility, they either try to recycle or clean the water, but periodically they have to dump the water to clean their tanks. So in the classroom, you don't have the equipment to clean that water. So where do you think it's going?
To the sewer.
Right down the drain. That's right. So here you have this classroom that's growing these hydroponic greens and vegetables, which is great. However, it's an environmental hazard. Mark my words.
Right.
The next agricultural disaster is going to be the hydroponic industry.
Really? Wow, I've never heard that. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because on Monday, my fiance, that's the first time I say my fiance and I will be having dinner with Dr. Dixon Pommier, also at the Vertical Farm. I'm sure you're very familiar with him. And he writes about it in his book and talks about hydro, aqua, aero, and soil-based media. And I am still making my mind up, and I think, you know, what biomimicry, you can't beat nature, right? And so I think it's important to have the discussion. And talk about it. And you know, Mr. Ritz, I challenge you actually to come talk to us in a very polite, loving way, because I would love to see you again. And I met you at the lake house with Miss Lorraine Gibbons and their Radical Farm. But because I think that you have so much to say, and I think that this is the conversation that must occur.
Ironically,
because there's pros and cons
Lorraine has one of our mobile edible wall units.
There you go,
too.
Another Mivu. So there you go. So everybody knows each other. But I think that, you know, like Mandela says, you need to talk to people who you have, agreements and disagreements with, because I think that all of them can play a role. But I agree with you wholeheartedly that if that's going to cause, like Dr. Dixon says, the most pollutions, or I'm going to be pointed here, a vast percentage of pollution that occurs in our country is from agriculture and from the waste from animals not being in balance with our natural cycles. So
see, you're 100% right. Here's the problem. If you're growing organically outside,
right?
Okay, horizontal, you're treating the soil, you're still going to have runoff. Okay, whether you're fertilizing that soil with synthetics or whether you're treating that organic farm, you're still going to have runoff. There's still going to be nitrogen that runs off into our waterways. What we have been able to do, okay, what I don't think the public really understands, is we have been able to take the organic techniques and bring that indoors to our vertical farms. So what we have is zero wastewater, zero runoff. However, our produce is still grown in good old-fashioned organic compost. Now, so what do we do with the waste? Okay, after we harvest, that waste, okay, gets repurposed into new compost. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to disclose.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
However, but we have almost zero waste in our vertical farms that's grown 100% organic in comparison to a hydroponic facility. Okay, where you're using water, you're using synthetic chemicals, you are creating health and environmental hazards.
Right. And what specifically are those health and environmental hazards? Is it the fact that when an overload of nitrogen hits the water system, the sewage, that algae blooms occur, or that it messes up with the pH? I mean, what are those? Is it heavy metal toxicity?
There's a lot of science involved in hydroponic application. You know, one little mistake, you can lose your entire crop.
pH too high, too low, and
but what you have is a different type of nitrogen that's what we call man-made, and it takes a lot of energy to break down that nitrogen so that it can be absorbed by the plant.
As opposed to naturally occurring nitrogen, which is much more readily bioavailable because of bacteria, or
right, exactly. So what we do is we implement a compost that is enriched and fortified with living organisms that naturally break down the minerals that make it available for the plant.
And I'm curious what you think of this. I just at Ramapo College in New Jersey, they have a rocket composter, and Professor Ashwani.
I know it well.
Yeah, so I spoke to him the other day, and we put it up on Green Rev YouTube, and he was talking about the benefits of it and the, the sort of trickiness of some of the things you can and cannot compost. And I'm meeting with Dr. Nick Smith-Sebastian. We worked with in Newark and used his compost. Now, do you know of his 4 Solutions machine?
No.
It's like Rocket Composter, but I'd say on steroids. It's huger and it has a metal grinder. I've used it with my students, and they've actually applied and put in everything, I kid you not, George, from bone to butter. And it shreds it all up, and then they add the carbon. And then after 6 days, 7 days, you have a legally certified compost. Now, it does smell, but you can cure that and make it work. I wonder if there must be some sort of, I know there's a microbe population and certain aerobic and anaerobic digestion. I wonder what is that magic sweet spot for that ideal microbial recipe,
We've been able to accomplish that by bringing it indoors. Okay, so our growing media per se never leaves the building.
And that's no carbon footprint, very little carbon footprint at all. You have it's easy, it's feasible. When you install these beautiful green walls and roofs, it's sort of a one-stop shop, all enclosed.
It is, and that's exactly what we do. We've created a closed loop agricultural system.
So which is like a micro earth, a little mini biome.
Right. And it could be anywhere from 10 square feet to 5 million square feet.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We're really proud to be able to grow food indoors that's really grown in good old-fashioned compost. And I'm sure I'm going to catch some heat from the hydroponic market.
And I think it's a debate we need to have. And the more we talk about it, the more we have. Just like if you disagree or agree with, I don't know, pick something, right? Any topic, we should have the conversation and continue to have the conversation, because that'll just enlighten us and spread the education for us all.
Well, I just think some people need to be brought to the surface for what they are and who they are, and also the techniques and technology for what it is.
And do you think there's a way that we can make hydroponic growing more a way to take the filtered water and maybe use all natural chemicals, or is there a way? Because I do think, just like I look at wind, solar, and geothermal, I do see, and you're enlightening to me, enlightening. I didn't know that those potentially could be that harmful. I do see them as players in this green movement, So how can we make them improve their processes? And
well, let's look at the hydro market.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say probably over 50% of what's being grown is leafy greens.
Right.
Number one.
Right.
How many leafy greens could this, area possibly support?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Number two, I call it, it's like having, force feeding cellular growth that lacks nutrition.
Force feeding cellular growth.
So basically, you're feeding these plants, you're force feeding these plants to grow at exponential rates.
Right, sort of like our factory farming. Like we're super loading these bad boys for profit because we want to be profitable and help people. But I think you're right. I think that makes complete. It's the American way, right? Bigger, faster, better, more money, right?
Well, but
and everybody then.
what you lack is nutritional content.
Right.
So you have basically empty calories. I call it crunchy water.
Crunchy water. Oh God.
So in comparison to growing, with beneficial bacteria and funguses, where you have those natural processes.
Yeah, and I love this fact you said, because a good friend of mine, Eric Mevo, I call him that. He started the Mawa Environmental Volunteer Organization, and he farms in Mawa, and he has this beautiful grassroots farm, and it's like 1 acre or 3 acres, and bees and everything. It's phenomenal, and they use, I think, swell and burn farming, and they dig certain deep depths down into the ditches, and he speaks about how the massive benefits, and some of which we probably don't even know of yet, or forgot through lack of, forgetting the genius of the past growers in the ancient times, of fungus and bacteria, and how there's things that we don't even know they could be doing, let alone what we do know they're doing. Right, and you think about fungus, it's literally, my students notice, it's hyphae, right? That spreads out and it sucks up decaying material, and that is a complete, almost neural network. It's a complete web that connects all these different things, and the nutrients must flow.
And that's exactly what it is. It's treating the soil. But again, we've taken it one step further, because you can do this outdoors, and you're still going to have leaching, and you can still be blamed for, nitrogen ending up in our water tables, et cetera, et cetera. But we've done this indoors, so we've contained all of that
closed loop
threat.
Closed loop. There's no threat. What Jamie Cloud talks about in the Cloud Institute.
Jamie's another good friend.
Yeah, amazing, right? And she says, she taught me so much. Thank you, Jamie. She said, food equals waste. Waste equals food. There is no away, right? And if you're an educator or anybody out there, go see Jamie Cloud in the Cloud Institute, because I remember we came into the room and she started playing a mute music, and it's like musical chairs. She's like, all right, go. And she wanted to see how long it would take us to stop the problem. and I ended up hopping onto this ledge, thinking, oh, there's no more chairs. She took away a chair. I'll be smart and like athletic. I'll hop up on a ledge. And then one person just eventually unplugged the radio to try to talk about bigger system thinking, go upstream. Right. And so like to prevent the problem, don't do Band-Aids. What is the bigger problem here? So like to that point, what is the bigger problem with our massive booming human population and food and green and
I've looked at a lot of different farming systems and applications, and at the end of the day, I still see an incredible amount of waste. Again, I have documentation and have visited hydroponic farms where you have just mountains of rock wool. And
it's like almost like the clay.
Rock wool is like almost an insulation.
Right.
Okay, that they grow tomatoes and peppers and all kinds of things.
Unlike the clay pellets.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it's a big slab of growing media that was, you have mountains of this stuff left outside in the rain. Where now the problem is this rock wool is infested with synthetic chemicals. So you get a rain, or you get moisture, you get leaching. You have high concentrations of these chemicals being, washed into our water table.
Right.
Now, there's millions of studies out there that demonstrate, these chemicals are very carcinogenous, where they cause cancers, brain cancer, liver cancer. I mean, there's all kinds of cancer. Right. And in my opinion, that's another rise in the cancer
epidemic or whatever.
Pandemic, I think a lot of it has to do with the food we eat, in my opinion, because if you follow the cancer trends with the agricultural trends,
interesting,
the increase in fertilizers also have an increase in cancer.
And can we rewind for a second? Fertilizer, nitrogen-based fertilizer, synthetically made, allowed for, forgive me if I'm mistaken, I'm going to approximate here, the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, we're talking 1950s to 70s, right?
World War I and World War II.
World War II, Agent Orange, those kind of companies. Yep. And it was really sort of like fossil fuels, like this really, and I think everything has pros and cons. And I just want to, I know you know that, but I just think that like fossil fuels, I said this yesterday when I spoke to Mr. Biedron, they're very empowering. You're tapping into ancient sunlight. It's revolutionized our world with technology, specifically transportation, right? So to appreciate that genius, the ancient bonds that have been broken and released, and I think about hydroponics and aquaponics, and I want to get to the point of artificial fertilizer, how it has allowed us to mass produce crops. So how do we take that benefit and then say, this is really, really good, and there's been a lot of horrible things, and how do we then steer it into the right direction, just like hydroponics, make it more eco-friendly, more,
I don't have that answer, but just like there were synthetic fertilizers being used in agriculture, okay?
Well, which exhausts the soil,
right, so you're just really applying the same technique of using these synthetic chemicals to the use of water and indoor growing.
Right.
Okay, so again, I'm predicting the fact that hydroponics is the next agricultural disaster.
Yeah, interesting.
Just like we have experienced with our soils, where we grew our food being wastelands now.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So
because they're nutrient depleted, right? The soils that
it is
too much. They haven't been turned. They haven't had compost added back in. They haven't had a natural compost, a natural fungus, bacterial growth.
Right, and they're missing those natural organisms.
As if we can sort of shortcut nature, and then we end up paying the price in the long run. Would you at least agree that people in the green scene, whether they're using hydro, aqua, soil-based aeroponics, that they're a lot of them have the intention to be doing good things, and that what they're doing, although they're doing some things, whether they know it or not, that could potentially be harmful, that I think there's a conversation that can be had that we can all continue to move forward together. Because I think it's a step in the right direction, especially with the advent of in 2050 we're going to have a massive urban sprawl, and there's so many people return to the cities.
I'll agree with you that I think the intention is there, but there's still at the end of the day a greed factor.
Right.
People want to make money.
I know. I think about my parents' farm in upstate New York.
And the subject.
If they can frack up there, if I own that land, would I say yes? That's the paying student loans off. That's you have these human nature.
These huge hydroponic and aeroponic farms that are creating massive amounts of crunchy water. And they need to be able to have a quick turnover in order to get them out the door just to pay the bills.
Yeah, so if we go upstream, right? If we go upstream from that, like Jamie Cloud, advises us, if we go upstream from that, and we can try to get out of, I'm full-on American, capitalistic, let's make money, let's do this, if we go upstream as far as we can, though, like, where does it all start? Is it the fact that we're no longer living in balance with the earth? You know, is that it? Because we're trying to produce food faster than it should be grown by mass and like, you know, mass producing pigs and, you know, shooting up with hormones and like doing these factory farms. We see this macro acceleration. So how do we get, even before the debate of hydro, aqua, soil, right? How do we reverse and get to the, wait, what should we be doing in the first place?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, the farmer gets paid on that pig as per pound. So if I have a bigger pig, I'm going to make more money.
Right.
Period. And with the cost and the overhead of doing business, you actually have to make that money. Okay. Whereas if you're going to let that pig or that chicken grow naturally, number one, you're not going to have the volume, the weight volume, in order to make your overhead. So then why do it?
Right.
At the end of the day, it's all about economics.
Economics. And
so
here's a question. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah. So, you know, my philosophy is if I can take the organic versions of what's going on and create those herbs and those leafy greens and those tomatoes and let them grow naturally in this vertical orientation, grown organic. Number one, it doesn't take a whole lot more work. I wouldn't have to charge organic prices. Okay. Because that's the other stigma is organic produce is so expensive.
Right. So know that non-GMO organic produce can be affordable.
It can be. It's not a incredible profit margin, but it can be affordable. Okay, so
especially when you consider the cost of open heart surgery, the cost of diabetes,
the
downstream cost of
long-term healthcare.
Right, and I think that's another. And it makes me think about, and I want to be really careful and I guess conscientious of the terms I use, because words carry more weight than, I guess, some words are really loaded. And I think about capitalism, right? I use that word to capitalize, and I think Jamie Cloud again, it talks about, and I learned from her how if we truly had a true capitalistic system, this might be a little bit of a different paradigm shift, so you might have to switch your lenses here, but this is in vibe with what we say. If you look at everything through the lens of money and value, right? A dollar value, USD, other currencies, the pound, etc., the yen, and you look, okay, if we took into consideration the amount of carbon that's fixed by these plants, by the trees that we cut down, by the trees that we plant, by the bees, how much would we have to make, how much would it cost to pollinate by hand or mini drone flowers if we kill all the bees off? And as Einstein says, you have 4 years left, buddy, good luck, right? If we had a true capitalistic society that actually for the first time took into consideration natural capital, the monetary value that should be assigned to the wetlands, which filter our water naturally through black, I think it's black sewage water or black sewer bacteria, whatever it is, the black sewer, natural black bacteria.